Okay, let's finish things off by adding a couple of key summary statistics to our dashboard here. So maybe one of the big things we're interested in is the difference in the average injury between passengers that were, or occupants that were wearing the lap and shoulder seat belt versus those that were not. To do that, we can go into the visualizations panel and we can click on card. Let's just move that off into sort of the top hand right corner here. Let's click on the maze, basically the injury severity, and drag that into our card. And underneath the fields in the visualizations panel, we'll want to click on the field name on maze, and we're going to want to change that. Instead of summing up all of the injury severities, we're going to want to take the average. So on average, all the occupants in the collisions here sustained an average injury severity of 2.55. Again, though, we might be interested in breaking things out between occupants that were wearing their seatbelt and those that were not. So we can add an additional filter here. If we go down to the fields column, we can click and drag the par use over to visual level filters. And in this case, we can select lap and shoulder. So now this card is only showing the occupant severity for those occupants that were wearing their lap and shoulder belts. Let's make that a little bit more obvious in the title. So we can go and we can click on sort of the little paint roller, the format icon, and let's turn off the title because that doesn't, or let's turn off the category label because I don't think that adds very much. And let's add a title here. So for the title, we can call this average lap and so that is our average injury severity for those occupants wearing the lap and torso belt. We can center that, and then we can just tighten up the box a little bit. Let's also add a card for those occupants who were not wearing their seatbelt. You can add a card just below there. Again, what we'll want to do is we'll want to click and drag the MAIS field onto that. Let's click into the format button, turning off category label, turning on title, and we'll call that average injury severity for unbelted occupants. And let's go and center that title and maybe squish down the box a little bit. We'll want to go into the fields column similar to the lap and torso belted occupants and just change that from being a sum to being an average. And so here we can see that those occupants who were not wearing their seatbelts did tend to have a slightly higher average injury severity compared to those who were wearing their seatbelts. Maybe we'll want to add one more statistic here. We'll put that on another card. And this will just be the total count of all of the observations. So for that, we can go and we can pull in the reference key. We can drag that onto the fields title. And rather than first, we'll want to change that to count. And let's go into the format, changing the category labels. We'll turn that off. Turn on a title. And we will call that number of observations. Center the title. Let's tighten this up a little bit. And there you go. Now you've got a dashboard that will allow a user to go through and to pick different ranges of collision severity, different ranges of principal direction of force, and will allow for both a visual as well as sort of a statistical comparison of the average injury severities for the front seat occupants that were wearing their lap and torso belts versus those that were not.